Metal shrieks as it tears apart under gunfire, boots slam into thick mud, and radios spit broken orders through violent static, while distant artillery rolls like thunder across the night. Floodlights sweep the ground, alarms rise, and panicked breaths cut through the chaos as soldiers scramble for cover, but in the middle of it all, a lone shadow moves unseen between wreckage and smoke. Not a unit, not a patrol, just one woman slipping deeper into enemy territory as if she belongs there. No one notices her at first. No one realizes that what she is carrying will soon overturn everything they believe about this battle. She pauses for a fraction of a second, glances back toward the fire, then steps forward, and that is when something impossible happens. This moment unfolds. Deep behind enemy lines at the most critical stage of the war, inside a fortified logistics zone believed to be untouchable, protected by layered defenses, encrypted communications, and constant patrols. Intelligence had warned that something decisive was hidden here: coded movement schedules, secret supply routes, a strategic truth that could determine whether cities survived or vanished overnight. If this mission failed, thousands of soldiers and civilians would pay the price before dawn. Maps later showed just how narrow the margin was: a single corridor, in and out, surrounded by forces ready to close in at any second. Fleets were already moving. Civilians unknowingly waited beyond the lines, and every decision hinged on what happened next, but no one realized the real threat hadn't even appeared yet. The shift begins with a single, quiet anomaly so small that it almost slips past unnoticed. In a dim command room miles away, a junior signals officer watches a stream of encrypted traffic scroll across a green-lit screen. Then it stops. One line hangs there, incomplete, as if the message itself hesitated. A second later, the system autofills the missing characters, forming a transmission that shouldn't exist, is in an encryption key retired months earlier. The room stills. Someone mutters, "That key was burned." Another voice answers, "Then who's using it?" At the same instant, far above the battlefield, a radar operator calls out a spike-sharp, brief, and wrong. Not aircraft. Not artillery. A pulse that appears and vanishes before standard tracking can lock onto it. The timing is too precise to be coincidence. In the field, an enemy flare erupts overhead, washing the mud and broken concrete in harsh white light. Patrols react immediately, shouting, scattering, firing into shadows. This flare wasn't scheduled. It wasn't reported. It was triggered by something or someone moving where no one should be. Back in command, the decoded transmission finishes rendering. It isn't a full message. It's a fragment cut from something larger, as if ripped out mid-thought. Coordinates scroll across the screen, then a short phrase that sends a chill through the room. Asset compromised. The word asset sparks confusion. This mission was never officially authorized to have one. No operative was listed. No insertion was logged. And yet the message continues, adding a final line that makes every conversation stop cold. She's already inside. Questions collide all at once. Who sent the message? Why use an obsolete cipher? And how does it know about her, whoever she is? Analysts scramble to cross-check timestamps, but the clocks don't align. According to the data, the message was sent after the flare, yet somehow received before it. On the ground, radio chatter explodes with reports of movement where none should be. Doors opening without alarms, shadows slipping through sectors marked clear minutes earlier. Every update contradicts the last. Then comes the realization, the kind that tightens throats and stills hands. This isn't a mistake. This is a trigger. Whatever was hidden in this zone has just been activated, and the enemy knows it. Orders flood the airwaves, seal exits, redirect units, lock down the perimeter. But even as the commands are issued, officers understand the terrifying truth: these responses are already late. The situation has crossed a line where control no longer belongs to them. A senior commander leans toward the screen, voice low and urgent. "If that message is real," he says, "then the next 90 seconds decide everything. Because somewhere in the chaos, the woman in the shadows is moving again. The next 90 seconds will determine whether anyone survived." The moment control breaks is never loud at first. It begins quietly, almost politely, with a delay, a radio. Transmission meant to confirm perimeter lockdown. Takes half a second too long to arrive. No one notices at first. The officer listening simply taps the side of his headset, assuming static interference. Then the reply comes through, clipped and distorted, missing its opening words. The sentence ends before it explains itself. Repeat last, says no answer. Across the compound, a steel gate begins to close, then stops halfway, shuddering as if uncertain whether it has been ordered to obey or disobey. Its motors whine, straining, before cutting out completely. 2 guards stare at it, confused. Weapons lowered just enough to be dangerous. That hesitation is all it takes. Somewhere inside the base, a door opens that should not open. Not forced, not breached, unlocked cleanly, deliberately, and with that single click. The illusion of control fractures. Inside the command room, the air changes. Officers feel it before they can articulate it. The hum of machines suddenly sounds louder, harsher. Screens refresh more often than they should. Data arrives out of sequence. A map flickers, redrawing unit positions a few meters off from where they were seconds earlier. Why are these markers drifting? Someone asks. They shouldn't be moving. Another replies. Those units are stationary. But the markers continue to slide. Slowly at first, then faster, like pieces on a board nudged by an unseen hand. On the ground, confusion spreads and ripples. A patrol reports footsteps echoing in a maintenance corridor that was cleared 10 minutes ago. Another unit reports the smell of fuel near storage where no fuel lines run. A sentry swears he saw a shadow pass behind a concrete pillar, too smooth. Too calm to be panic-induced imagination, each report alone would be dismissed. Together. They form a pattern no one wants to name. She feels it too. The woman moves through a narrow service passage, her boots silent against damp concrete. The walls sweat with condensation. Overhead pipes rattle faintly as distant artillery sends vibrations through the ground. She stops not because she's heard something, but because she hasn't. No shouting. No footsteps. No alarms in this sector. That silence is wrong. She presses herself against the wall as a pair of guards pass the corridor entrance, arguing in low voices about orders that no longer make sense. One says they're supposed to be sealing exits. The other says command just told them to redeploy inward. Neither sounds confident. When they move on, she exhales slowly and continues. She was trained for chaos. What she wasn't trained for was hesitation. Because hesitation spreads faster than fear, back in command. An analyst overlays intercepted signals onto the operational map. The result makes his stomach tighten. These transmissions, he says, pointing, they're bouncing internally. Not outgoing. Not incoming. What does that mean? Someone asks. It means someone inside the perimeter is talking to themselves. Or using our infrastructure. A senior officer steps closer to the screen. Are you saying we're compromised? The analyst hesitates just long enough. Yes, he says. But not how we expected. Another screen lights up with fragmented, decoded text. Not a full message. Never a full message. Just pieces. Corridor access granted. Failsafe delayed. Window closing. No sender ID. No unit signature. And threaded through all of it. Like a recurring echo, the same reference appears again and again. The first shots ring out moments later, not in a firefight. Not in a dramatic exchange. A single shot. Then another. Short, controlled. Surgical. Sentry collapses near a communications relay, his radio still transmitting the sound of his body hitting the ground. No one answers his call sign when it repeats over the open. Channel static fills the gap. That static becomes a roar as multiple units try to speak at once. Command. We have repeat, we have movement, our feed just went dark. Orders are conflicting. Who do we listen to? Command tries to respond, but command no longer knows. She reaches a junction where 3 corridors meet. According to the blueprints she memorized, one of them should be a dead end. Instead, it slopes downward. Lights flickering on as she approaches. Someone wanted this path usable. She adjusts the strap on her pack, feeling the weight inside. Small, dense, deceptively ordinary. The object doesn't look like something that should cause panic. It never does. That's the danger of it, eh? Sudden clatter echoes behind her. Boots too close. She ducks into a recessed alcove as a squad rushes past. Weapons raised, breath sharp and uneven. They're moving fast, but not with purpose. They've been told to run without being told where. One of them glances back, his eyes wide, whispering, "They said it's already inside." Another answers, "What is?" No one responds. In the command room, someone slams a fist onto the table. "We're losing the board," the officer snaps. "Who has authority right now?" No one answers immediately. Then a voice from the back says quietly, "No one." That is the moment panic truly sets in, not on the battlefield, but among those who believe distance made them safe. Because war can be managed. Confusion cannot. A system alert blares a low, pulsing tone meant for internal failures. Not attacks. That's impossible, an engineer says. That system is isolated, was another replies. They watch as the countdown indicator freezes, then resets, not to 0, but to a new value. One that wasn't programmed. Who authorized that change? Silence. The engineer whispers, "It wasn't an override. It was a reroute," as if the system itself had been persuaded. She emerges into a storage chamber stacked with crates marked by faded stencils. Dust hangs in the air, disturbed by recent movement. She crosses the room quickly, kneeling beside a terminal partially hidden. Behind tarps, the screen flickers to life at her touch. She plugs in a small device. For half a second, nothing happens. Then data begins to pour across the display. Somewhere far away, alarms spike again. Command realizes it at the same time. The internal network isn't just compromised, it's being used. Whatever she is doing, whatever she came here for, is no longer theoretical. It's active. Live. Irreversible. A commander leans back slowly, as if the chair might give way beneath him. This wasn't an infiltration, he says. It was a trigger. Sighed. The base erupts into motion against searchlights, slicing the darkness, vehicles roaring to life. Shouted orders overlapping and canceling each other out. But beneath all that noise, one truth settles in like ice. The first line has already been crossed, and the chaos unfolding now is only the beginning. Chaos does not explode. It multiplies by the time command understands that the network is being used against itself. The damage is already layered technical, psychological, and human. Orders continue to move through channels, but they arrive warped, stripped of certainty. A directive to hold becomes a command to advance. A recall is received as a pursuit. Units move with confidence in the wrong direction. On the ground, that confusion becomes physical. A platoon runs straight into another unit's firing lane. Shouts erupt. Fingers tighten on triggers. For one breathless second, friendly fire almost ignites not because of panic, but because both sides believe the other has gone rogue. Only a last-second recognition patch and a screamed name prevent bloodshed. They separate quickly, shaken, humiliated. More uncertain than before, fear is no longer coming from the enemy, it's coming from doubt in the command room. Screens fragment into competing realities. One map shows the perimeter sealed, another shows it breached. A third shows movement in areas officially marked cleared. Analysts argue over which feed is real. They can't all be wrong, someone insists. They can, another answers. If the inputs are being fed lies, a senior officer orders all automated data temporarily suspended. For 10 seconds, the room falls into an eerie stillness, no updates. No blinking alerts, no scrolling numbers. Then the human. Reports begin flooding in, breathless, incomplete, emotional.
We
heard footsteps behind us then. Nothing. A door unlocked itself. We found a relay already warm, like someone had just left. There's a woman. No, I didn't see her. But everyone's talking about her. Officer rubs his temples. The system isn't just compromised, it's being personified. She moves faster now. Not Recklessly dash precisely. She knows the window is closing. She can feel it in the way the bass hum has changed pitch, in the way distant boots now move with purpose instead of confusion. Someone has finally taken charge. Even if they don't fully understand what they're fighting, she slips through a stairwell as emergency lights flicker on, painting the walls in alternating red and shadow. Her reflection fractures across metal surfaces, multiple versions of her moving at once. Above her, heavy hatch slams shut. Below her, voices echo upward. She counts steps, times breaths, turns corners without slowing. This isn't escape yet. This is alignment. Back in command. The first clear realization hits like a blow. She's not reacting to us, an analyst says slowly. We're reacting to her. The room goes quiet. She's ahead of our decisions, he continues. Every time we adjust, she's already moved past it. That means she knows the structure, the logic, the response patterns. A commander asks the question no one wants answered. How? The analyst swallows. Because someone built this system with failure in mind. The implication hangs heavy. This base wasn't just designed to defend, it was designed to be turned on the ground. A rapid response unit finally intercepts something solid. A dropped access badge near a junction corridor. It's not hers. It belongs to an officer who swore he never left his post. They find him minutes later, live, shaken, locked inside a storage cage from the outside. I didn't hear her, he keeps saying. I didn't hear anything. The fear in his voice is worse than panic, because it suggests choice. She reaches the final transfer point, the device in her pack. It vibrates once a silent signal. Data sync complete. What she came for is no longer only with her. Copies are already moving through channels that can't be shut down without exposing themselves. She pauses at the edge of a service exit. Listening. The base has changed again. The chaos is tightening. Search patterns are becoming intelligent. Orders are finally consistent. The enemy has learned too late. But not us. So why? When improvisation meets adaptation in command. A new voice takes authority, calm, controlled, terrifyingly focused. Assume the operative is not leaving the way she entered, the voice says. She's using our logic against us. Predict the exit by removing the obvious ones. Markers vanish from the map-sealed routes, collapsed tunnels, blocked corridors. Only one path remains unmarked. The room stares at it. That route was decommissioned. Someone says yes, the voice answers, which is exactly why it's still open. She steps into the darkness of that route, as if answering the thought itself. The tunnel smells of rust and cold earth. Old cables hang like vines along the ceiling. Water drips somewhere ahead, slow and steady. For the first time, she allows herself to feel something close to fear. Not because she's unsure, but because she knows she's been understood. Behind her, heavy boots hit concrete. Ahead, the tunnel slopes upward toward night air. She breaks into a run. Gunfire erupts, not aimed, it's not controlled, but desperate. Bullets spark against stone, ricocheting into the dark. She stumbles, catches herself, keeps moving. The tunnel narrows, forcing her to discard her pack for a moment. Dragging it behind her by its strap, a round tears through the air close enough to burn. She doesn't scream, she doesn't look. Back command watches the final feeds collapse into static. The last sensor pings once, twice, then goes dead. Silence floods the room. No confirmation of capture. No confirmation of escape, only absence. The commander exhales slowly. She's either gone, he says, or she's somewhere we can't see. No one argues, because both possibilities are equally terrifying. Outside the perimeter, alarms continue to blare, but now they sound hollow, delayed, meaningless. The base still stands. The structures remain. The weapons are intact, yet something fundamental has been lost: certainty, control, and the understanding of who is hunting whom. Far from the lights, beyond the last fence line, a figure moves through the dark, carrying nothing that looks dangerous, yet holding information. Powerful enough to alter the course of the war, the chaos behind her begins to settle, but what she has set in motion cannot be contained. The consequences arrive before anyone can prepare for them. What begins as a tightening search becomes something far worse: convergence. Units that were scattered by confusion are now being pulled inward by a single, ruthless logic. The base is no longer reacting blindly. It is hunting with intent. Search grids collapse inward. Checkpoints activate in sequence. Night vision optics cut through the darkness beyond the fences. Somewhere an order is issued that is neither shouted nor debated, only executed. Contain, do not pursue. Force her to choose. That is when the trap becomes clear. For the woman moving beyond the perimeter, the night feels suddenly smaller. The air carries sound again, and genses idling in controlled patterns. Boots moving with discipline, radios transmitting clean, clipped commands instead of panic. The chaos she exploited is fading, replaced by something colder and more dangerous. Coordination. She slows, crouching behind a low ridge of earth and wire. From here, she can see the glow of the base behind her, searchlights sweeping outward like fingers trying to close around her. Ahead lies open, terrain too open. No cover. No shadows deep enough to disappear into. She checks the device one last time. The data is safe. The transmission is complete, but safety is no longer the objective. Survival is in the command room. The tone has changed entirely. No one is shouting now. No one is improvising. A senior strategist stands at the center table, hands resting flat against the surface, eyes locked on a single map. The rest of the room has faded into background noise, screens humming, analysts whispering, clocks ticking far too loudly. She didn't just steal information, he says quietly. She altered the decision tree. Someone asks what that means. It means every move we make from this moment forward is influenced by what she took. Even if we stop her now, the damage is already propagating. A subordinate hesitates. Then why not cut losses? Lock everything down? The strategist turns. Because if we let her disappear completely, he says, we confirm that what she has is real. Silence answers him. Then the order comes. Interdict, not eliminate. Force contact. The message reaches her in a way she doesn't expect. Not through gunfire. Not through pursuit, through recognition. She reaches what should be a safe extraction marker, an abandoned structure, mapped months earlier as neutral ground. The door opens easily. Too easily. Inside, a single light is on and waiting. For her as a man she was never supposed to see again. He doesn't raise a weapon, he simply says her name. The sound of it hits. Harder than any bullet. You shouldn't be here, she says. He nods. Neither should you. The realization unfolds slowly, brutally, the compromised access. The obsolete encryption key. The doors that opened without force. It wasn't coincidence. It was permission. He tells her the truth in fragments. How the system was built to bend, not break. How certain failures were meant to reveal deeper truths. How someone had to walk into the machine to prove it was rotten all the way through. You were never meant to escape clean, he says. You were meant to be seen. She understands then. This wasn't just a mission, it was a message. Outside, engines grow louder. Time collapses into seconds. He offers her two options, spoken calmly. Almost kindly leave now, through a narrow corridor of darkness that will let her live. But strand the final confirmation behind. Enemy lines forever, or stay 30 seconds longer. 30 seconds to complete one last transfer. 30 seconds to expose names, not just plans. 30 seconds that will almost certainly cost her everything. She thinks of the cities. The fleet's already moving. The civilians who will never know how close the edge truly was. She nods once and stays in command. Alarms flare again. A countdown timer appears where no one authorized it, bright, merciless. Where did that come from? Someone demands, an engineer's voice shakes. It's not ours.
Ow.
The strategist smiles thinly. She's forcing disclosure. The numbers tick down darty. 29. On the ground, she moves fast, hands steady, mind razor sharp. Data floods through the device, unfiltered, unprotected. Names surface. Chains of command unravel. Decisions once hidden behind protocols stand naked and undeniable. Gunfire erupts outside the structure. 2-5. 24. He watches her work, knowing what it costs. You won't make it, he says softly. She doesn't look up. I know. 10 seconds. The door explodes inward. Smoke shouting, muzzles flashing. She rips the device free and runs not toward safety, but toward noise, toward unpredictability. A bullet grazes her shoulder. Pain flares, sharp and bright, but she doesn't slow. She reaches the edge of the structure just as the countdown hits a reverie. Screening command freezes, then updates again. Information cascades outward like a shockwave into allied channels, neutral observers, places never meant to receive it. Not enough to expose everything, enough to make denial impossible. The base goes silent, not from damage, from understanding. Orders stall mid-sentence. Units stop moving. Commanders hesitate, not because they are afraid, but because they are suddenly unsure who they answer to anymore. She collapses beyond the structure, hidden by smoke and darkness, breath ragged, vision narrowing. Somewhere behind her, the man turns back toward the base, already fading into obscurity in command. The strategist exhales. This, he says, staring at the screens, will never be written the way it happened, because in a moment no historian could fully explain. The war did not shift with an explosion, but with a revelation. The fighting ends without ceremony. No final charge. No victory signal. No clear moment anyone can point to and say, that was it. Instead, the night simply exhales. Engines power down one by one. Searchlights stop sweeping and remain fixed, illuminating nothing of consequence. Medics move quietly, their boots no longer urgent, their voices lowered out of habit rather than necessity. Bodies are counted. Ammunition is logged. Damage reports are filed with careful neutrality. Officially, the operation concludes as contained unofficially. No one can agree on what just happened. At first light, officers walk the perimeter in silence, studying places where nothing appears, broken doors that opened and closed without visible damage. Terminals that show no sign of tampering. Corridors that feel wrong simply because they were used. A communications relay is replaced even though it tests functional. A gate motor is swapped out, though it never fully failed. A stairwell is sealed and labeled structurally unsound despite no structural damage. These are not repairs. They are acts of denial. No one mentions the woman aloud. Yet everyone references her without using her name. Movement occurred here. Access was gained there. An anomaly passed through this sector. Language becomes a shield in the days that follow. Debriefings are conducted behind closed doors. Soldiers speak hesitantly, as if afraid that clarity itself might be punished. One guard describes a shadow that moved against the direction of the light. Another swears he heard footsteps that matched his own pace exactly. A technician recalls a screen updating before he touched the keyboard. Their accounts don't align perfectly. That makes them easier to dismiss. One by one. The testimonies are classified, shortened, or stripped of emotional context until they read like routine procedural notes. Medic writes in her personal journal, "We treated wounds, but not the kind that bleed. Something passed through them. I don't think it left." The journal is never submitted. Weeks later, sanitized report circulates through authorized channels. It describes a minor intelligence breach, a temporary systems malfunction, a corrective response that prevented escalation. No operative is named. No external influence is acknowledged. The report concludes with a phrase that becomes policy. No strategic impact observed. It is repeated often enough that some begin to believe it. Maps are redrawn. Timelines are adjusted. Events that occurred within minutes of each other are separated by hours on paper. The moment when control fractured is erased, entirely replaced by a calm, linear sequence of cause and effect. History, after all, prefers order, but not everything can be buried cleanly. Somewhere in an archive that does not appear on any directory, folder remains untouched. It contains fragments, partial logs, intercepted signals, a copy of data that should not exist because it was never formally received, and one anomaly. No, analysts can fully explain. A timestamp mismatch, according to the system. A set of files was accessed after the network was locked down. By a user ID that was never registered, next to it is a handwritten note. Added later by an unknown reviewer. If this is real, it means she saw everything. The note is never referenced again. No body is found. No capture is confirmed. There is no record of extraction. Some believe she died in the dark, beyond the perimeter, unnamed and uncounted. Others insist she was seen weeks later, crossing a border that doesn't officially exist, carrying nothing but a bandaged shoulder and a look that made guards step aside without knowing. Why? A rumor circulates quietly through intelligence. Circles that she refused every offer of protection afterward. That she understood. Something no one else did. That being known was more dangerous than being hunted. Months pass. Then years. Decisions change. Operations are delayed for reasons never fully explained. Entire strategies are abandoned without public justification. Command structures subtly shift, as if accommodating an absence no one will acknowledge. When questioned, officials cite new assessments. They never say who's a junior analyst. Reviewing outdated material late one night, pauses over a blurred image attached to an obsolete report. It shows a grainy corridor, lights flickering, and at the far edge of the frame, almost invisible, a figure turning toward the camera. He stares at it for a long time, then closes the file. He does not reopen it. What the world eventually learns is incomplete. What it never learns is deliberate, because the most dangerous thing she carried out of enemy territory was not data or names or plans. It was proof. Proof that systems built to protect can be turned from the inside. Proof that control is often an illusion maintained by habit. Proof that a single human presence correctly placed can unravel years of certainty. The final document related to the incident ends with a classification. Stamp so severe it has no expiration date. Beneath it, one final line remains visible, full disclosure pending further review. That review has never come, and the truth about what she saw that night, what she understood, and what she chose not to reveal, is still locked in the archives,